Quade Cooper story.
Yeah, little Quade Cooper story, mate.
Yeah, so I was on my gap year in Brisbane in 2013. Brilliant time to be in Australia, obviously with the Lions. And me and my mate Adam, we played for South Magpies, up the Pies. And Quade Cooper at the time was playing for the Reds, the Super Rugby team in Brisbane, and his non-Super Rugby team was the Souths. So now and again, if he wasn't playing for Reds or he was, they were injured or whatever, he'd play in the Prem grade, so the top grade for the club. And so in Australia and New Zealand, they play in grades rather than leagues. So of course you have your first team, second team here, whereas there you have Prem grade, reserve grade, then it was first, second, third, keep going. And at the time I was playing for the third grade, and all of for some reason that night at training, all of the other teams above us weren't there, only the Prems, and they had a game that weekend. And so we were on the bottom pitch, right out the way in the dog shit park sort of thing. And and the Prem coach came down and he was like, "Oh, we need you boys to come run as defence against us." And so, oh, cool, going up there. And didn't realise that Quade Cooper was back that weekend, along with a load of other Reds as well. So we had to do run-throughs against these guys, and fuck, they were good, incredible. And I remember being in front of Quade Cooper, and he was catching, he'd take the ball at first receiver, and he was directly in front of me, and I was like, oh my God, came up out the line. He was probably 10 metres in front of me.
Fanboy moment.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then literally a second later, I'm on my arse. Okay, I'm on my arse, and Quade Cooper is behind me. I don't know how it happened. He just fucking stepped me, and I just crumpled in a heap on the floor. And I was just like, bravo.
Mate, that is a claim to fame, mate.
Yeah, I got absolutely just sat down, but I didn't even get fucking close to the guy.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And he just bah, he was gone.
He's got one hell of an elusive step, isn't he?
Oh,
He just
insane.
He's got that sort of that trademark. It's almost like a goose step.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
he sort of misses the floor with one foot.
Yeah.
As if he's going to accelerate in one direction and then just punches the floor.
Bang.
Oh, mate, it's a thing of beauty.
Fucking incredible. Yeah, that was my Quade Cooper experience.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Nothing to be ashamed of there.
No, I'm happy to be put on my ass by that man's step. Yeah, any day of the week. Yeah.
What a story. Yeah, that is a claim to fame, mate.
Yeah, indeed.
Cherish that one.
Have you got any?
No, not really.
No.
I haven't played against any big time players from what I can remember. No, none, mate.
Fair enough.
But that was completely irrelevant to today's topic.
A nice little anecdote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you told it. So today's topic are our favourite supersets. Okay, supersets are a fantastic tool. I guess we should define what a superset is, in case anyone doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's just where you pair two exercises together. It can make training a bit more efficient, time efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It can make it more effective depending on what outcomes you're looking to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's share some of our favourite supersets, why we might use them, some of the benefits, when it might even be inappropriate or not as appropriate to use supersets as well. Yeah, got any?
Yeah, loads. At the moment in our programming here at Endeavour, we tend to use supersets, giant sets, trisets, which triset is 3 exercises, giant sets is 4, and then what's the after that?
I think anything above 3 you just call a giant set.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, yeah.
In the end, it's just a circuit, isn't it?
Yeah,
circuit training.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. We use supersets and giant sets and trisets probably all the time. Like,
Yeah, they work really well in class settings, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it is just a time efficiency sort of thing most of the time. We've got an hour to get the work in, so we couple exercises up that complement each other. So at the moment we're in our strength phase. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build, or we're trying to move with maximal intent on a squat, hinge, push, pull. But in order to try and get the maximum out of our hinge movement, we're tending to pair it with our pushing movement, our upper body push. Just that way, we're not overloading sort of that upper body. So we'll do a trap bar deadlift with, let's say, a bench press. That way, we're not having to do much in terms of grip because you're trying to hold onto a bar or any sort of like significant load. You don't want to double up two exercises that are grip dominant. So I love it, and I do it in my own training. Like I'm constantly coupling up, so like a hinge and a push, or an upper body pull with a squat, just again to spread the load, make it more time efficient, and then just to basically not have that. What was that term you used?
Interference effect.
Interference effect. Yeah. Try not to like have too much of that in terms of like overloading or giving too much emphasis to one thing and then having it sort of disregard the other exercise, as it were.
I think one of the golden rules, if you're going to be pairing two exercises together, and the goal is to develop strength and maximize output, is you don't want those two exercises to interfere with one another. I think that's like kind of what you're getting at. So like by pairing a lower body pushing exercise such as a squat with an upper body pulling exercises, they're so unrelated. One isn't really going to interfere too much with the other. Likewise, if you do a hinge, like a deadlift of some sort with an upper body pushing movement, then again there's minimal interference. So, and you can kind of maximize your output for both, because as opposed to just doing like a deadlift and then resting for 2 to 3 minutes, maybe you can sort of maximize your time by in that 2 to 3 minutes of rest performing a push movement. I think that's a great way to do it, especially if you're training the full body in one session. So if you're doing a full body workout, then hinge, so some sort of deadlift, typically Romanian deadlift, hex bar deadlift, conventional deadlift, paired with a pushing movement, which could be an overhead press, dumbbell press, an incline press, or something of that nature, is a nice way to do it. You can even make that the theme of the session as well. So I found, obviously there are a number of ways that you can split up your training. And one of the ways that I found to be quite effective is doing a hinge and push centered or focused session. And then a sort of squat and pull focus session. I find that to be quite effective. If you want to train they're kind of like full body sessions in a way. But you're just putting a little bit more emphasis on, say, squat and pull in one session and then hinge and push in another. I think that's quite a nice way of doing it.
That's very similar to at the moment how I'm doing my own program. Is sort of like I'll do 3 strength days a week, and then there will always be like a big compound movement focus, usually a bilateral focus, so either bench or trap bar deadlift, and then I'll do a squat and then a pull up. And so I also find like pairing some sort of squat, especially if you're being actually loaded, it's a nice one just to decompress the spine, especially after so many years in the front row, getting my spine like squished down even more. So it's a nice one to just feel lengthened again.
But that's a nice way to break up your training. So if you've got you should have key performance indicators. So if your primary exercises are some sort of squat, so you just choose whatever squat sort of suits you best. Just call it a back squat and something like a chin up. They're going to be like your primary strength exercises for that workout. You can pair them together if you want. Do them at the closer to the start of the session when you're a little bit fresher.
Yeah.
And then you can either continue that theme and do like more kind of like knee dominant lower body exercises with like pulling like back exercises as your accessories, or for the accessories on that day, you might do a hinge and a push, but they're going to be kind of like your secondary hinge and push movement for the week.
Yeah.
And then in another session, you flip that.
Yeah.
So you'll have like your primary hinge and primary push, and then in your accessory work, it might be knee dominant exercises with pull exercises, but your secondary movements there. Yeah. That might be a nice way to break it up sort of like throughout the week if you wanted to hit those movement patterns more frequently, but also manage the overall amount of load.
And then that's the great thing about it is like you're getting in, across a week. If you're repeating that 3 or 4 times a week, then you're getting a lot of volume in.
A lot of volume, a lot of frequency and practice.
Yeah, exactly, across a week, rather than necessarily doing that leg day. So you're very, very sort of squat, knee dominant day, one day of the week, and then you're not really doing anything similar for another 7 days. I love supersets. Like I don't think I'd do anything without a superset these days. Like I don't do any isolated one exercise. I'll always do something alongside it. But then sometimes I'll do something that is try either complements it. So today at the moment we're doing like a heavy, or not heavy, but a super maximal mid-thigh pull. And then we're going straight into a hang power clean. So you're getting that overcoming isometric from the mid-thigh pull, and then very, very well, basically pretty much the same movement pattern in terms of that start position, and then going into that hang power clean. So we're sort of supersetting that. I guess you could argue, are they not the same movement? But
well, no, they're not. They both serve a purpose. So again, it depends on like the goal that you're trying to achieve. So I guess if we just to give this a little bit of structure, let's try and break these up into different categories. Yeah, okay. Because we've just covered how to superset upper and lower body exercises for the sake of general strength development. Yeah. You've also got agonist, antagonist supersets. So that would be like an upper body push into an upper body pull. That's your classic sort of like bench press into some sort of like bent over row or horizontal row, or an overhead press into some sort of like pull down sort of superset, bicep curl into tricep extension. So that's where you're pairing like an exercise where you're training one muscle group or movement pattern, and then you're pairing that with an exercise that trains the opposing muscle groups or movement pattern. That's quite an effective way to do it. Yeah. We can go into some of our favourite supersets in a moment, but I guess we'll just like lay out some of the categories. I guess the other one, which is the one that you've just mentioned, is something called post-activation potentiation or contrast training. A number of ways that you can go about implementing this. Yeah. But the one that you've just mentioned, where you're performing some sort of heavy overcoming isometric, will stimulate your nervous system, particularly those like motor units and muscles that are going to be used in the subsequent exercise. Yeah. With the aim of improving your performance in that subsequent exercise. So obviously if you're pulling against, in the example that you used where you did a heavy overcoming mid-thigh pull, you're pulling against an immovable object, that's going to fire up your nervous system. So when you do a hang clean, which would be the subsequent movement that you're pairing it with, the bar, the weight that you're lifting is theoretically going to feel lighter. Yeah. Yeah. You've just amped up your nervous system, and now you're pulling against and
ultimately that the whole point is around your muscle fibers and motor units don't know what's going on. They don't have eyes. They're not conscious as to we're doing a mid-thigh pull versus a clean.
No, they detect tension. Yeah,
all they know is that they're getting a signal to contract. And that's ultimately what they're trying to do is just contract with maximum sort of effort. And like a way I was trying to explain it to the guys is, you're sitting in the car, you're at a red light, and you're get it into gear, stick the handbrake on, and then rev the engine, ramp up the revs as hard as you can, and then whack that handbrake off and go. That's basically the analogy that I'd use to describe sort of overcoming isometrics.
Yeah. Another one that I've sort of heard, quite a good analogy to explain like post-activation potentiation. Imagine you're loading boxes onto a truck, and they're all really heavy, and you just load up like a really heavy box onto the truck, but then the next box is empty and you don't even know.
Yeah.
And then you end up like picking it up. You think it's going to be heavy. You're going to end up like throwing it over your head.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of like you're kind of tricking your nervous system.
Yeah.
You're asking it to like, you know, lift literally something that is immovable, and then you're asking it to do exactly the same thing just with a lighter load.
Yeah.
And all of those muscles are going to be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And you're able to hopefully produce a bit more force.
Yeah.
Another way you can use post-activation potentiation is by pairing a heavy, like a normal heavy resistance exercise with a corresponding explosive exercise. So something like a squat into a jump is a really common example, or a deadlift into something like a broad jump or a kettlebell swing, or a throw. An overhead med ball toss is a favourite of mine. So that's another way that you can do it. And if you just think about the term like post-activation potentiation, when you potentiate something, you're just preparing it. So post-activation, so you're activating your nervous system, and then you're doing something afterwards that is hopefully going to sort of correspond, but also benefit from that initial stimulus that you provided it with the first exercise.
Yeah.
So
PAP is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And it's a really time-efficient way to train for two different physical qualities, both, you know, strength, maximum strength, and speed or power.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like do that in quite a time-efficient manner, and it's fun as well, because like rather than just doing like your strength exercise in isolation and your power exercise in isolation, just pairing the two makes training, you know, a little bit more novel and interesting. And I think there is a genuine carryover if you use it correctly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've also used. I've been using it recently, actually, on the track. I've been doing resisted sprints with the sled into non-resisted sprints. So you can also use it from a, and this is one of our second topics, but you can also use post-activation potentiation in a way to refine your technique in a certain exercise. You can do which is why I'm using it on the track. If I do a resisted sprint, that resistance is allowing me to lean forward a little bit more, and it actually encourages me to put more force into the ground and sprint or accelerate with more efficient mechanics. So that when I take the sled off, I kind of know what that feels like. It gives me, I know what it feels like to just project my body forward a little bit more. And then when I remove that sled, remove that constraint, I want to try and replicate that feeling. So it can kind of, and you can use that on the track, you can also use it in the gym as well. I quite like going from doing a heavier, slow tempo squat, for instance, like that's where I'm really paying attention to sort of my position, my technique, how I'm sort of like distributing my weight, like I'm managing my center of mass and stuff like that. Might just do that for like one heavy single, then remove some weight, and then go into some, might do like 3 faster reps, where I'm descending a little bit quicker and trying to pop out the bottom a little bit faster, and utilize that bounce, but with a bit more awareness over my positions and my technique. So I'm just moving more efficiently because I front loaded it with that heavy tempo squat. So that's another way to sort of like use post-activation potentiation. I've also used that with for the purpose of hypertrophy or muscle building. Doing one of my favourites is using quite a heavy band and using it for rows. So you do an isometric row. So you squeeze as hard as you can, because it's quite difficult for certain muscle groups to have to develop a really good connection with things like your like the muscles that retract your shoulder blades and your lats, it can be quite difficult to connect with those muscles at times.
Yeah.
And so by performing that maximum effort isometric with the band for 10 to 15 seconds,
Yeah.
when you then go into performing something like a seated cable row
Yeah.
or a bent over barbell row,
Yeah.
you can connect with those muscles that you're trying to use and
Yeah.
target a lot more effectively. So then I might perform like my normal 10 to 12 reps of rows
Yeah.
after that to like, you know, pretty close to failure
Yeah.
for the sake of improving like the muscle building effect.
Yeah, exactly. So that sort of yielding isometric probably, you know, would be described more as like a pre-exhaust almost.
No, I'm actually using it to more as like an activation, like, in a way, like because I'm not trying to exhaust it. I'm not holding it for long enough to create too much fatigue.
Okay.
It's just to build some awareness so that
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I'm like retracting my shoulders
Yeah.
in that row,
Yeah.
I've got a better connection with the muscles that I'm using
Yeah.
when performing the movement through a full range of motion.
Yeah.
That's one that I find quite effective. But again, yeah, like you said, post-activation potentiation can be used in a number of different ways to improve performance or just whatever physical adaptation or outcome you're looking to achieve. But yeah, there's some good ones. And we'll go over some of our favourites for each of these in a moment. But trying to think of some other ways that you can use supersets. For hypertrophy purposes, I think pre-exhaust, which is the one that you just mentioned, is quite common. That might be where you're doing like an isolation exercise to target a specific muscle, followed by a compound exercise to target that same muscle.
Yeah.
So if you struggle, for instance, isolating your pecs when you do a bench press, and you kind of feel like your stronger muscles or muscles that you're better able to connect with take over, like your triceps or your shoulders or something like that, then you can pre-exhaust your pecs, the muscle that you're actually trying to target before performing that compound exercise. Let's say it's a bench press.
Yeah.
And then you're able to not just feel your pecs, but they're also pre-exhausted. So they're going to be the thing that probably fails first, if that's the goal.
Yeah.
If you're trying to, exhaust the muscle again for the sake of building building muscle, then that's a technique that you can use. That's pre-exhaust, and then you've got post-exhaust, which is the opposite.
Yeah.
Do a compound exercise into
the
isolation.
Yeah.
Again, it's just another way to get a little bit more volume in for that same muscle group.
Yeah.
But the goal in that case would be muscle hypertrophy or local muscular endurance. That would be why you would use that technique. Trying to think, what other ways can you use supersets?
I tend to use some supersets for like a little bit more sort of neurological stimulation, especially with rehab. So tend to do some sort of single leg, like especially if people are coming back from ACL ankle injury, do some sort of single leg balance, catch even, or something that's requiring them a little bit more proprioception, and then go into something more dynamic, like a depth drop or something. So classic one would be a single leg stand, and I just pass the person a tennis ball. So they're having to focus on the tennis ball and stabilize through that single leg position. And then I'll get them to do 10 catches, and then we'll go over, step onto a little box or something, step off, land, under control. And it's just about sort of, waking up that nervous system, getting ready to, take that impact and land, and know how to stabilize and stay stable through that leg, to try and just build up that.
Kind of like closed chain, open chain drills. Yeah,
exactly. So that's always a good one, especially from a rehab point of view. Another one that I quite like using, it's a bit more like, I guess, like I've got a few of the lads at Barnes at the moment with the rehab. Oh, I've got an itchy arm. And they've got like hamstring issues and stuff. So we're doing some like oscillation work. So just a fast, quick, very minimal range of motion, but like a fast oscillation movement, either with a bit of a banded resistance or on a foam roller, like some sort of stability. So working within a partial range of motion and just trying to get the muscle to fire as quickly as possible before going into a heavy RDL or something, where we then lengthening for a full range of motion, tends to again just drive that sort of that nervous system stimulus a little bit better, because what tends to happen, lads who have had an injury, is that that nervous system, the ability to recruit that muscle has probably dropped off quite a lot. So it's just about like firing back up, switching back on, being able to then go into that big compound lift and, you know, be able to lift maximally again and getting the most out of it. It's not necessarily about lifting the most amount of weight. It's about squeezing as much juice out of we can out of that rep as possible, without overdoing it. Or, you know,
getting as much stimulation as you can out of using the least amount of weight.
Exactly, yeah. Especially after injury. You know, you don't want to push it too hard, too fast. Especially, you know, if
what you're trying to do there is like reduce inhibition.
Yeah.
That might have been caused or might be present as a result of the injury.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's always a good one as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. I love supersets. I love getting creative with supersets and, you know, coming up with different ones.
Yeah, and I think that the important thing to note is that, like, you want to know why you're using a superset and what the outcome that you're trying to achieve. Yeah. Then you can get creative. Yeah. There's no point like just, you know, mixing exercises together just for the sake of it. Yeah. Just for like the sake of entertainment. Like you want to do it in a way that's actually going to help you achieve the outcome that you're trying to achieve.
And sometimes the outcome is just trying to make it really fucking hard. Like, so high rocks class at the moment, like a lot of the goal with doing a high rocks is, you know, that horrible fucking term, compromised running. You know, where you're running under fatigue, having done, you know, 100 meters of burpee broad jumps, which is fucking gross. And so one that I'm using at the moment is a nice little superset, is getting people to do wall balls into a heavy sled push, like fucking quad dominant, and then getting them to go on the run and just getting used to basically your quads feeling like jelly and learning how to pick your legs up and get running. Which is always funny.
You're just exposing them to like what they're going to experience in the event that they're about to go and do. Which is a really smart idea. Like when you're preparing for something, you kind of want to experience what you're gonna kind of like you're gonna be experiencing in that event.
You want to make the training almost harder than the event itself.
Ultimately. So that you're well prepared for it.
Exactly. That's I think it's a bit sadistic, but
something that you actually were doing as part of your warm up was using a rugby ball, just passing that against the wall. I think doing something that's mentally stimulating in between sets of particularly like neurally demanding work keeps you switched on. Like, yes, you obviously like want to rest so that you can like just resynthesize ATP and like sort of, you know, you've got enough juice basically for the next set. So you don't want to like exhaust yourself. No. Especially if you're doing things that are like quite demanding. Like if you're doing any type of like heavy resistance training, it's probably you want to give yourself plenty of rest in between sets. But doing something that's reasonably active, like passing a rugby ball against the wall, doing a few kick-ups. If you've got
low level demanding. It's a great way to just
keep your nervous system switched on.
Keep yourself switched on and also kill some time.
Kill a little bit of time, and it's still productive. Like that is still, I think, especially as adults, that's something. Adults that don't play organised sports anymore, that's a great way to just sort of like sprinkle in a little bit of that athleticism that you might be missing. Like in between your sets of heavy resistance training, because yes, like developing strength and like it's great for building muscle, improving bone density and that sort of thing. But I think sometimes we do miss out on like improving coordination, timing, rhythm, some of these softer skills that you get from playing sports that we once all had when we were younger, that we kind of like neglect as we get older, and those skills sort of like diminish over time. So like just passing a rugby ball against the wall. If you've got a tennis ball, throw that against the wall. Doing something that's just a little bit more that requires a little bit more coordination and proprioception in between sets. Probably is a, you know, that would be a nice way to use supersets, because you are supersetting to different types of exercises there. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good. So let's go through each of those different categories that we just mentioned,
Yeah.
and provide some of our favourite, just personally, like our favourite supersets and ones that we've been using either with ourselves or with clients recently. I'll start off with the category that you first mentioned, which was pairing upper and lower body exercises together. One that I've included in my strength class over at Personal Space, which is in Kingston, is an overhead press paired with a good morning.
Okay.
Because our KPI at the moment,
Yeah.
or one of our KPIs, is an overhead press. So it's a squat and an overhead press. They're our sort of like main primary strength exercises that we're trying to develop over the course of this 12-week program. But I only have them for one session a week.
Yeah.
So that has to be sort of like quite a holistic session. We start with some, jumps and plyometrics at the start. Because it's the most sort of like physically demanding exercise, we start with squats. And we'll just do that as a standalone exercise. But then I'll pair the overhead press with the good morning, because again, they don't really interfere with each other, and they can still get some really good quality work in on the overhead press.
Yeah.
And the reason I like using it is because it's really space efficient. They can use the same bar.
Yes.
It's at the same fucking height. And I think that's something to bear in mind if you are somebody that trains by yourself in a commercial gym.
Yeah.
If you're going to sort of be writing your own training program, what works practically in your environment? Like when it's busy and you're in a commercial gym, you don't really have the luxury of going from one piece of kit, walking across the other end of the gym, and then using another piece of kit.
And then you come back, some dickhead's taking your rack.
Exactly, yeah. And you could be a bit German about it and leave your towel on the seat. But yeah, so trying to find ways to use supersets sort of intelligently and practically. Using the same piece of kit, I think, is quite. That's the reason I really like that one, because you can keep the bar on the rack.
Yeah. Where are you holding the bar? Were you good morning? Are you backloading?
It's kind of like a low bar squat position.
Okay.
Yeah. So just unrack the bar like a squat, and then you go into your good mornings.
Yeah.
You might have to use a little bit more weight for your good morning, but it's you just literally put a little bit more weight on the bar.
Yeah.
And you go into your good morning, and then you take it off for your next set of overhead press.
Yeah.
But I've really been enjoying that one.
Nice. Yeah, that's a really good one. I like that.
Yeah.
I think one for me, I really like, and I've got a couple. One for developing upper back strength. I really like pairing a front squat and a chin up, because I find that getting into that front rack position, having that that bar front loaded, it requires a hell of a lot of upper back strength and just trunk strength in general.
Yeah.
And then supersetting that with a chin up, again, really hits that upper back. I feel like, in terms of you trying to get some good volume in and really, really try and build that big upper back strength, which is going to carry over to your pressing and, everything else basically. It's a fantastic superset. But then thinking about the efficiency side of stuff, one that I used to do when I used to train over at the gym group in Wandsworth, and although they had millions of racks, it was always busy. And so one that I used to love doing was a barbell floor press with a RDL. So I'd set the bar up at the same height for my floor press, but it was as my RDL, and then my RDL was pretty much the same as my floor press, so I didn't have to faff around changing the weight too much. Yeah. And I was in one space for that exercise and that superset, and it worked perfectly.
That's a wonderful superset. I really like that.
Yeah.
And you know what? As an entire session, front squat into chin up.
Yeah.
As A1, A2, and then B1, B2.
Yeah.
Floor press into an RDL. That is a fantastic full body session. And then for your like your C tier exercises, couple of whatever, weaknesses you need to address. Fucking perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a session.
Oh mate, it's great. Great session that was. Yeah.
Yeah, just a nice selection of exercises. What was the one that I was going to think of? Oh, talking about, similar to yours actually, but a Romanian deadlift. This is one that's really space efficient. Is some sort of deadlift with push up. Yeah. Or dip. Yeah. That's quite a good one, because often the dip station you can attach to the rack that you're using. Yeah. Or if you're just doing a push-up, you can literally just drop and do your push-ups.
Yeah.
But yeah, deadlift with push-up I find quite
quite
efficient.
In fact, actually, this morning was one of my clients. We're working on deadlifts at the moment, and he's supersetting his deadlifts with a push-up.
Yeah.
And I like doing that, exactly that reason from, again, different muscle groups, but also for him, it's about trunk control. And so I think push-up is well underrated in terms of just a really good core exercise.
Yeah.
Like the ability to apply force down into the ground, maintain that good posture and position throughout your torso and that trunk.
Yeah.
Make sure that your hips and shoulders are raising at the same rate. You're not leaving anything behind. Fantastic in learning how to switch on, stay tight, which is fantastic to carry over to that deadlift, and so he's doing really well at that at the moment. And that's a really good little one.
I actually think on that note, doing any type of hinge movement or hip dominant exercise with an anterior core exercise is a nice superset.
Yeah.
In actual fact, when I program any type of like anterior core exercise, so any like traditional ab exercise, whether it's some sort of plank, dead bug, reverse crunch, those sorts of exercises, weighted sit up, ab wheel roll out, it's normally paired with a hinge movement or like a hip dominant lower body exercise.
Yeah.
So I really like doing something like a Romanian deadlift into dead bug, or it's just a nice way to slot it in. And you also get a little bit, after you've done those dead bugs, that sort of like core exercise, you've got a little bit more awareness around the trunk.
Yeah.
So you're able to hold better positions and maintain better positions when you're performing that hinge pattern.
Yeah. And it just
you're less likely to like overextend and
just
create too much tension around the lower back.
Yeah, just reinforcing those good positions. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I think that's quite nice. But yeah, any type of squat with a pull-up. One that might be a little bit more space efficient for people, that I've programmed recently is in this particular client's program, I did use a front squat and paired it with it's a feet supported pull-up using the barbell that is on the rack. Yeah. So you
I call them cheat chins.
Yeah. And so you basically you're underneath the bar. Yeah. Like holding onto it like a pull-up. Yeah. But you've got your feet raised on a bench or a box in front of your body. You want to keep your legs straight and your hips underneath the bar, so it's still a vertical pull. Yeah. And it doesn't turn into a inverted row. Yeah. You're trying to keep your hips back and stacked underneath the bar, and it's still a pull-up. Yeah. And also with that variation, you're probably able to perform a few more reps than you would do typically, because you're lifting like less percentage of your body weight. Yeah. So that was a really nice sort of superset that I've used recently.
I think those what I call cheat chins really good. Like we do
nice
them.
Learning tool for people that are kind of
especially to learn how to, like you were saying earlier, a lot of the time, like it's hard to gauge lats a lot of the time. People struggle to get that connection. And like, I think doing those cheat chins is a really good way to learn how to contract by, and again, assisting with those feet. Like I tend not to put feet on. I just get people to squat down and dead hang, so their bum's off the floor. And then I say, right, I want you to imagine your back's up against the wall and you're pulling your back up against the wall. You're allowed to push for your feet, okay, but you've got to really focus on using your arms as much as you can. And people, it's that sudden like, oh, click, and don't let your hips come up sort of thing, and turn it into inverted rows. Yeah, great exercise.
Yeah, I like that sort of like traditional sort of free weight like resistance exercise into some sort of like calisthenics exercise. Yeah. That's like kind of what we've just described there, like a squat into a pull-up and something like an RDL into a push-up or dip. I think they're quite nice sort of like supersets.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah. And again, it just spreads that load. Yeah. Again, it depends on what you're focused on. It's like if you're if you're a bit more sort of like hypertrophy focused and you're trying to almost do like a overload or drive as much stimulus into one muscle group, then potentially you want to do those exercises that are focused on one area. So you go through your your classic bench press into your incline bench, into your dip, into your fly. You know, hit the pec from every angle like we used to do.
Yeah, which you don't need to. You absolutely don't need to.
No.
I mean, like total training volume and effort probably play a bigger role in, you know, building muscle tissue than anything else.
Yeah.
Like overall training volume and effort.
And actually, if you're doing multiple exercises in one session on one muscle group, then you're emptying the tank and you're having to wait 7 days again to, you know, do it again, to be fresh enough to do it again, and, you know, train with enough intent to actually drive a good enough stimulus to try and get some adaptation. So, yeah, I think
like from a hypertrophy standpoint as well, like because you do stimulate like muscle protein synthesis, which I think sort of tails off after about 72 hours. So after you've done like a productive dose of training, after about 72 hours, like muscle protein synthesis sort of tails off, and then you have to stimulate, you know, those muscle groups again, in order to continue that sort of like that progression. So I think training a little bit more frequently, say for most muscle groups, I think a movement patterns twice a week is a good number to sort of shoot for. Like 2 to 3 times a week if you're really like trying to, maybe if you've got a muscle group that you're trying to prioritize, either because you don't connect with it very well or it's just a little bit stubborn, then you might want to increase the frequency a little bit, which will just allow you to train with a bit more volume dedicated towards that one muscle group. That could be an option. But that's where like supersets kind of come in handy, because it allows you to increase your training efficiency, squeeze in a little bit more volume without taking up quite so much time. Like if you can, like now we're going to move on to sort of our favourite push and pull movements, or agonist, antagonist movements, so we can sort of cover both the upper body and the lower body. One that I did just yesterday actually, which felt really good, and it always does. So I'll either use an incline press, and it could be with dumbbells or a barbell, but because I've been focusing a little bit more on the overhead press, I did it with overhead press yesterday, but it's typically incline barbell or incline dumbbell press with pull-ups. But the protocol that I used specifically was it's 6 sets of 4 to 6 reps for each exercise. I'll use a weight that I know that I can do for around 8 to 10 reps in each exercise, and I will alternate between exercises every 90 seconds, which it'll give you about a minute's rest in between exercises, because 6 reps with sort of like not a slow tempo, but a reasonably controlled tempo on the descent will take about 30 seconds. So it gives you a minute's rest in between exercises, and you just keep going back and forward until you've done your 6 sets on each exercise. And I keep it in that range of 4 to 6 because your sort of like performance and output is likely to tail off a little bit over the course of the 6 sets. So you might do like, say, 2 sets of 6, 2 sets of 5, 2 sets of 4, and then the aim over the course of a training block would be to get that closer to doing 6 sets of 6. So it might end up being like 6, 6, 6, 5, 4, 4, and then it goes, 4 sets of 6, 2 sets of 4, and then you try to slowly build it up.
Yeah, I see what you mean,
So that was a nice one that I used yesterday, and that's something that I'm going to be using for the next 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, nice, that's a good one. I like that. I actually do one of my favourite ones, which is a incline dumbbell bench usually. So I'll superset that with a chest supported row. I just find and also you tend to use a very similar weight. I like doing sort of probably, if I'm doing like a set of 8 in terms of my press, then I'd like to maybe do like 12 on my row. I find like just react better to higher volumes.
I think partly it's because it's harder to connect with your back muscles. They do also serve different functions. Like your push muscles are normally used when you need to generate a lot of force, like when you're throwing, pushing, punching, like like the pecs and like your pressing muscles are typically, I think they produce a bit more output.
Yeah.
Your back muscles function as more like postural muscles when we're carrying stuff and dragging stuff.
Yeah.
Very rarely are we using them sort of like explosively.
Yeah.
So
on that, I always remember someone, I can't remember who it was, but it was an interesting sort of analogy. Again, I love analogies, but so of course we aren't related directly to chickens or pigeons, let's say. Okay. But like, okay, I'm going off on a tangent here, somewhat. But so birds of flight, their breast muscles are that's why you get massive chicken breasts, because they're incredibly strong, because what they're trying to do is apply as much force as possible to create as much uplift in order to fly. And so we're slightly the reverse, because we're apes and we are descendants of apes and we did a lot of climbing. We have much larger back muscles. So it was always an interesting one. I was like, oh, okay. So then, if you want to be a fucking pigeon and have a pigeon chest, then do lots of pressing. But if you want a big, strong back, do lots of rows.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think the back muscles, there is something to be said for training muscles according to their function. And because the back muscles basically keep us upright, they stop us from falling on our face. Yeah. They prevent when we're standing upright, because we obviously had to learn at some point throughout our evolution to stand up and walk on 2 feet. We're kind of like, if we're going to fall, normally we're going to kind of like fall forward, because that's the direction that we travel. Yeah. Like we navigate the earth. So because our muscles are working, like our back muscles are typically working isometrically to stop us from falling forward, they're not generating a whole lot of force, but they are working most of the time to prevent us from falling. And so they tend to be made up of, potentially tend to be made up of like slower twitch muscle fibers, which might respond better to higher volumes of work at kind of lower intensities. And also there is that fact that they're quite difficult to access just cognitively. To voluntarily contract your back muscles, like your lats, your rhomboids, like your mid to lower traps, it's a little bit harder for most people than it is to contract their pecs. Because you can see your pecs, you know, and you kind of like, you can get the hang of that a little bit easier. And so I do find that using a bit less weight, so using lower intensities and training like things like rows, like reverse flies and just back exercises in general with higher volumes, just enables you to connect with those muscles a little bit better. Just because you don't like, if you were to do like a super heavy row, there are a lot of like ways that you can compensate. Like if you're doing a heavy barbell row,
flexing through
you can flex through or extend through the lumbar spine. You can use a lot of momentum. Whereas if you're doing something like a dumbbell press and you're back supported on the bench, you can grind through that, and there aren't that many ways that you can compensate. Whereas you can compensate quite a lot for like doing rows and back exercises. So I think there are a couple of like really good reasons that doing slightly higher volumes with lower intensities for back movements is probably a better way to go in most cases.
So I love doing that incline bench, like heavy incline bench into slightly lighter, higher volume chest supported row, and just really focus on getting a massive stretch and then big pull. And it was a really, really important one, especially retraining to prop, like having a strong upper back. And that was again why I used that front squat into chin up, like just having a big, strong upper back so I can manipulate the other position, props, and stay in good positions. It was really, really important. No, that's probably one of my favourite. Definitely that antagonist superset.
A nice isolation one for both like pecs and upper back that I've used before is a lying, and I really like these. I think these are underrated. It's a lying dumbbell fly, but on the floor. And the reason that I like is it actually limits the range of motion a little bit, and I find it's a bit more comfortable on the shoulders. So I think when people do flyers, they try to take it through like maximum
Yeah.
range of motion, but they go past the range of motion of the pecs.
Yeah.
And they end up just putting a lot of tension on the front of the shoulder. They get this sort of like anterior shift
Yeah.
in the shoulder, and now they're just placing quite a bit of stress on the sort of like the tissues around the front of the shoulder.
Yeah.
But when you're lying on your back, I actually got this from a coach called Josh Bryant, who's got a, you know Tom Haviland?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's his coach.
Okay.
Josh Bryant, he's got a company called Jailhouse Strong. It's been around for years.
Yeah. Okay.
Got him from him, and so you go like you're lying on the floor, and it's like doing a dumbbell floor press, but
Yeah.
you're doing a fly instead. So
Yeah.
your arms are going to go back, touch the floor, and you kind of do it from a dead stop.
Yeah.
So and because you're doing it from a dead stop, you kind of like you aren't able to use that stretch reflex
Yeah.
at the bottom.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
dead stop, brief pause, and then you're just contracting your pecs to pull your arms across your body.
Yeah.
That paired with a face pull,
Yeah.
seated face pull. Just because you can do it, you can just literally sit, like set up, grab your dumbbells from the rack,
Yeah.
set up in front of the cable station.
Yeah.
You lie on your back, you do your dumbbell floor flies,
Yeah,
and then you go straight into a seated face pull.
Nice.
So you got pecs and then like upper back,
Yeah.
rear delts, external rotation.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really nice, and you get a lovely juicy pump from it as well.
Oh, yeah, that's ultimately all we're looking for.
That's all we're looking for.
Just a fucking juicy pump.
Yeah, but it's got like things like that are also underrated for shoulder health because you're moving your shoulders through and loading your shoulders through different ranges of motion.
Yeah.
Think like you've got adduction through a pretty full range of motion, and you've got like external rotation, like from the face pull. Like you're training and loading your shoulder for a pretty full range of motion with that combination.
Yeah.
Which is like quite underrated. One that like the agonist antagonist bicep tricep superset that I love the most
Yeah.
is an overhead tricep extension on the cable.
Yeah.
So you set your bench up
Yeah.
in front of the cable station on a slight incline.
Yeah.
Get your rope overhead, so your back supported by the bench.
Yeah.
Do an overhead tricep extension. So you're training your triceps in a lengthened position with your
Yeah.
arm in full flexion.
Yeah.
Straight into an incline dumbbell curl.
Right. Okay.
Again, training your biceps through a full range of motion in a lengthened position. Fucking mint.
Yeah. Do you know what? I actually tried that a little while ago because you did tell me about that. But I did it because we don't have cables here. I did it with just like a skull crusher, and even that, just going straight from dumbbell skull crusher into that bicep curl. Fuck.
Yeah.
Juicy.
Oh, mate, wonderful superset.
Juicy pump.
So, there are some... have you got any for the lower body? So I superset far more for the upper body because there are more muscle groups to cover
Yeah.
than I do for the lower body.
Yeah.
I like to keep the lower body exercises separate in most cases.
Yeah.
Because I think also the muscles in the lower body are bigger, and inherently lower body exercises tend to be a bit more taxing. So I need a bit more recovery in between sets in order to put the same amount of effort into every set.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a bit stupid doing something like a squat into an RDL.
Yeah.
Because you're like, by the time you get to your second set, your lower back's going to be blown up from, like, and your hips are going to be blown up from the RDL, and it's going to interfere too much with the squat.
Yeah,
although you'd like primarily training like kind of like knee dominant, like quads on your squat and hips, and like hamstrings, lower back on the RDL, they still interfere far too much.
Yeah, I must admit, I tend not to. If I'm doing any sort of lower body superset, it would probably be something that contrasts nicely with it. So like, and usually something more dynamic, So if I'm doing some sort of squat, I'll pair it with a jump.
Yeah, so that's like coming back to like the post activation.
Exactly. Yeah. But one that I have in the past liked, and I do like in terms of just, especially from a rehab point of view, which is really easy to get guys with lower limb injuries doing, is a skier squat, like a single leg skier squat. So holding on to a rack, arms straight, and using that as a hinge point. And so you sort of almost lean back with your foot nice and close, and you try to keep your shin as vertical as possible and have the other leg hovering behind. You're trying to lower yourself down using this hinge point.
That sounds like a pendulum squat.
Yeah.
Like a bodyweight pendulum squat, but on a single leg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So going down, getting like that shin knee to floor, and then driving up and then supersetting that with some sort of like single leg foot elevated hip thrust or something for a little bit of hamstring. That's probably one that I quite like doing from more of like a rehabby point of view, for sure.
From a rehab perspective as well, I really like doing, one thing that I would pair something like a squat with, so would be a knee flexion hamstring exercise. So that could be something as simple as a front squat or a goblet squat, something like that, paired with a leg curl, if you've got access to a leg curl machine, or you could do it on a Swiss ball, or you could do a single leg isometric hamstring bridge, something like that. I use that quite often because they don't interfere with each other anywhere near as much. Because your lower back isn't being taxed, like your hips aren't being taxed in the same way. If you were doing like a hinge motion as your hamstring dominant exercise, I think that would interfere with the squat quite a bit on the subsequent sets. But doing a leg curl or a knee flexion exercise for the hamstrings doesn't interfere with it anywhere near as much. I really like that, like doing that pair. And one that I've been programming quite a bit is a split squat. I really like a narrow stance split squat.
Okay.
Where you're trying to keep the knee forward over the toes for as long as possible. Really trying to fucking like load those quads and to stop like your knee extending early. Paired with a single leg hamstring bridge. I really like that that superset.
Yeah,
that's a nice one. So you sort of like you sort of like you're attacking the knee like from both angles. You kind of like you're really attacking the quads, and then you're really attacking like that sort of like distal hamstring. With the the single leg hamstring bridge.
Nice. Yeah.
That's a nice one.
I like if I do now and again. If I feel like doing something sadistic, I'll do like a Bulgarian split squat into a Bulgarian RDL.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. Again, probably...
I've done it, but it's disgusting,
Probably overload in terms of like the hip and stuff, but still, if you just want like, if you're really trying to smack your glute, just...
Oh, you'll know about it, yeah.
Oh yeah, you'll fucking get doms.
I do wonder though, like for some people, if you choose two sort of like exercises that are maybe a little bit too demanding, like that, are they really going to be putting... the effort is going to diminish. Are you
compromising the actual quality for the outcome?
That's one thing that I wanted to mention actually, when supersets might not be...
advantageous.
Or appropriate. I think sometimes you think that you're being more efficient by using supersets. But if it diminishes the quality of the work that you're doing too much, then it might be better to just do it as a standalone exercise and squeeze more out of that one exercise that you're doing. Like that's why I'll often like if there's a primary exercise that I'm sort of like programming for, I'll often just leave that as a standalone exercise and just let people rest in between sets. I might give them a low-level drill to do in between sets, like we said before, like throwing something against the wall, doing some sort of like reaction base drill, something that's not going to fatigue them too much. That's viable, but I think, if you're doing two very taxing exercises and you're not giving either your full attention and effort, then just do them separately. Just do them separately and give them both like your full attention and effort.
Exactly.
Because you'll just get more out of it, and that in itself will be more efficient.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So sometimes,
there's no point just doing work for the sake of doing work, because then you start accumulating just junk volume. Where you're not really getting anything out of it, you're just making yourself tired.
Exactly.
But no, I like superset. And one of the other, just to mention, just in case anyone wants to try it, is a quite like a glute and ham raise. Not a Nordic necessarily. I don't know, nothing wrong with Nordics, but I do like a glute and ham raise, like on a proper GHD machine. Into an ab wheel rollout. I love that as like so posterior chain. Got your and a very, if you're not quite prepared or ready to do like a glute and ham raise, if you can't quite do it, I mean you can do sort of like band assisted glute and ham raises, but another variation of that I quite like is I call it a Nordic hip hinge.
Yes, yeah.
Where you're in that, so knees are bent at 90 degrees. you lean forward a little bit to create a bit of tension in the
hamstring.
hamstring. So you've got that biting point, they're switched on,
Yeah.
and then you just bend at the hips, but keep your back nice and flat.
Yeah.
And then use your glutes to extend the hips on the way up.
Do you know what? I'll give you some credit because I saw you put that on social media a little while ago, and I put that into the program during the endurance phase. Everyone was complaining like, "Fuck my hamstrings" for like literally weeks. They're like, "Oh, why does it hurt going down the stairs so much?" I was
It attacks.
I'd say it's probably actually better than a Nordic.
Well, you're getting you're getting knee flexion.
Yeah,
you're holding
in a knee flex.
You're on knee flex position, but you're holding like your hamstrings are acting isometrically.
Yeah.
To
keeping your torso upright.
To keep you in that knee flexed position.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of like flexing and extending at the hips.
Yeah.
So your hamstrings are working extremely hard to just like keep your knee at the same angle, keep your knee still, whilst moving at the hips, and it's fucking brutal. It is a wicked exercise.
It's amazing. The hamstring is an incredible muscle in the fact that it can both.
It's biarticular.
Yeah, exactly. That's the exact word. Biarticular.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's a good word, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good. So for people that don't know, a biarticular muscle is one that crosses two joints. So that, like an example would be the biceps. They cross the elbow joint and the shoulder joint, and so they both flex the elbow, but they also flex the shoulder. So if you actually wanted to train the shoulder through a full range of motion, you would, flex with both the elbow and the shoulder. Hamstrings are the same, so they cross the hip and they cross the knee, so they can flex the knee, but they can also extend the hip. And when you're performing that Nordic hip hinge, you're kind of performing both actions. So it's a lovely exercise. And then that paired with an ab wheel rollout, which is one of my favourite anterior core exercises.
Yeah. Get an ab wheel rollout right. Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, I think if people were to the reason I really like an ab wheel rollout is because it's quite progressible.
Yeah.
In that, going from doing a normal kneeling ab wheel rollout to a standing full range of motion ab wheel rollout, that's quite a journey.
Yeah.
Like if you can do a standing ab wheel rollout for like sets and reps, that's really fucking impressive, and not a lot of people are going to be able to get there.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of time to progress that exercise.
Yeah.
Like it gives you a lot of like progression options.
Yeah.
Whereas the same can't be said for a lot of other like core exercises.
Yeah.
Like you can add weight to a plank and that sort of thing, but there's only like so many plates you really want to stack on your spine.
Yeah. I also like an ab wheel rollout from the stance of like getting a quite juicy lat pump as well.
It's very underrated as a shoulder mobility exercise.
Yeah.
Like loading your arms in that overhead position, and like you said, loading your lats in a lengthened position with your arm overhead.
And then that's why I always tell people it's a really good one for teaching people how to get into a good position to do a pull up.
Yeah.
Because you have to engage and then retract and shorten that lat. And even just doing that now, I can feel my lat just going switching on.
And not just because I know a lot of people, I've experienced it myself, get a bit of irritation around like the teres.
Yeah.
Which is like one of the external rotators of the shoulder that is very much involved in like vertical pulling. So when you're in that sort of dead hang position, when you initiate the pull, it largely comes from the teres and the lat working together to like depress the shoulder and initiate the movement. And I find that it does condition like the teres and the lat really well. And you're also using a little bit of serratus as well.
Yeah.
To sort of like when you're reaching the shoulder, like spreading the shoulder blades apart and pulling that. So it's a great, like you mentioned, great accessory exercise for things like pull-ups and other gymnastic skills that you might be, like if you're trying to maintain that hollow body position. Ab wheel rollout is, up there is like definitely one of my go-to favourite core exercises.
Yeah.
Fun one, I really like talking about contrast training, post-activation potentiation. We've mentioned a couple already.
Yeah.
But what are some of your favourite exercises to pair together? Let's categorize it. Let's go for one, like couple for the lower body, and then couple for upper body. We can do sort of like couple for push, couple for pull.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with like lower body. One that I tend to use quite a lot is some sort of maybe like a trap bar jump into a drop jump, something like that.
Yeah.
Because with that heavy trap bar jump, you're getting, especially if you're starting from an extended position, so you're from standing, and we're focusing on fast down, fast up, we get that stretch shortening cycle, and then taking that into a drop jump, so we're unloaded, we're not having the additional load of the bar, instead we're just having the force of gravity and our mass hitting the floor, and then trying to again rebound off the floor as hard and as fast as possible. So really, really good in terms of like developing that vertical jump and that ground reaction force. So that's probably like a nice one, especially for just lower body power. And then I'd say for uppers, I like doing a bench, some sort of bench with a plyo push-up. When I say a plyo push-up, something where doing a push-up as aggressively as possible with my hands leave the floor. So yeah, going straight from that conventional bench press, nice and heavy, to then racking that, and then even doing it on an elevated push-up, so on a bench, so it's not as difficult, but really again,
it's quite practical as well, because like in a gym, because a lot of people can't really do like really good like explosive plyo push-ups. So doing what you suggested, where you've got your hands elevated on the bench, one, it's more doable for people, like they can get more productive reps in, but also it's really convenient, the fact that you're using a bench anyway.
So that's probably two off the top of my head. What about you?
Nice, I like those ones. I like for the lower body some sort of like very knee dominant like upright squat. Normally, like typically a front loaded squat, or something like a high bar squat or safety bar squat into hurdle jumps.
Nice, yeah.
Quite like that one, just because it does sort of like, it corresponds quite closely just when you look at like just biomechanically. Like the tissues that you're loading and that sort of thing, and the direction that you are producing force. I think they pair together quite well. I like doing something like a hex bar deadlift into an overhead med ball throw. I like that one. Again, if you just look at like the joint angles and how you're applying force into the floor, it's very, very similar. And I do feel like you can, what you're looking for, it's not just like biomechanically, but you're trying to, there's a certain feeling. It's like when you do the hex bar deadlift, for instance, and you're aggressively trying to push your feet into the ground and extend your hips. Because it's heavy, it's a heavy stimulus, you kind of like, what that feels like, and then you can kind of replicate that feeling when you're trying to toss the med ball, overhead. And obviously like you're doing that a lot more explosively and a lot quicker. But you kind of like, by having that heavy, slow stimulus first, you get a much better sort of like sensory feeling of what that's like. And then you can just sort of like really consciously apply that into the corresponding explosive movement, which I find quite nice. One for the upper body. You know what? Because it's not very often that you sort of like do upper body pulls, heavy or explosively. But I quite like doing a heavy weighted chin up with a med ball slam. It's quite a nice one, because you're getting that sort of like that same action of shoulder extension, like violent shoulder extension, plus if you think about a med ball slam done well, it's a bit like a crunch as well. So you're performing the same sort of action that we described when you're doing ab wheel rollout, pulling the arms down and trying to keep the core nice and tight, kind of almost flexing through the spine a little bit, while hinging at the hips, and you're just using that entire anterior chain to slam the ball to the floor, and that corresponds again quite well with a chin up, which you're kind of doing the same sort of thing. I think they're all pretty good options.
I think actually I've just reminded me of one that I think actually stupidly I should have mentioned right at the beginning. It's probably one I do with most people when they start, or we're doing sort of like fundamentals, is a kettlebell swing into a broad jump. Firstly, in terms of loading that posterior chain, being able to maintain good posture and position through that torso, but also it's really good in terms of learning rhythm. And like what I tend to find with people, ask people to do a broad jump, they'll jump, but they'll throw their arms behind them as they try and go forward. They project themselves forward, which is counterintuitive. So when you do a broad jump, you want to throw your arms in the direction that you want to travel. So with that kettlebell swing, you've got to allow your arms to come up in the direction that the kettlebell is coming. And then because it's a nice rhythmic movement, you can progress that. So the same as you would do with a broad jump, that you land in that sort of hinged position, lengthen through that posterior chain, and then again exploding forwards. The same sort of repetition and rhythm as you would do in a kettlebell swing. That's a really good one in terms of coordination, but also just developing
sensory awareness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just developing that good sort of power through that posterior chain. Yeah, pap. Yeah, we're all about that hip extension. Pap.
It's quite a nice term actually that I got from Dan John.
Yeah.
So like kettlebells are really good for developing something that he calls snapacity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like work capacity,
Yeah.
but with that snap.
Yeah.
So your ability to snap, which I quite like, and that's why I think kettlebells really come into their own.
Yeah.
It's developing work capacity, but your ability to sort of like perform or be explosive rhythmically.
Yeah.
And really have that sort of like that snap.
Snappiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you're looking for, like be snappy. You get used to being snappy. I think a lot of, and this may be a bit of a tangent, but like I think people make the mistake of doing things like it's important to do things slow and controlled. But what I tend to say to people is like, very rarely do things break in slow motion. Usually injuries and stuff happen like, when you fall, you land, you get hit, or, it's very, very sudden. And in order to sort of be able to cope and be better at tolerating those sorts of impacts, loads and situations, it's important to learn how to be snappy, how to react.
You've got to expose yourself
Yeah.
to those types of activities in order to be well prepared for them. So if ever you have to move quickly, just in life or in sport, then you better be pretty well prepared for it. And you can do that in a controlled environment in the gym by doing things like jumps, plyometrics, swings, med ball throws. So moving quickly, even traditional, like when you're lifting weights, like traditional resistance training, you can do that fast. Like I quite like doing from time to time like a heavy single arm cheetah row. Just like, it's pulling your arm forward, it's yanking you out of position, and you kind of got to like, rip it up. It's, or doing like, one of my favorites recently has been like fast, really explosive body weight dips.
Okay.
Where I'm pulling myself into the bottom position and trying to reverse it as quickly as I can. I'm like, bang, bang, bang.
Fucking hell.
And because you're exposing like all of those tissues to that like extremely fast, aggressive loading. So you're having to, absorb it at the bottom and then redirect it. And it's you're just exposing like your tissues and your joints to, maybe, I mean, there does become a point of diminishing returns where there's a certain amount of, I mean, I do this for mostly entertainment and enjoyment. I mean, I'm not really playing a sport, and I would rather be, and I'm a big advocate of this sort of like philosophy, if you like, but I'd rather be more prepared than I need to be. So you know what I mean. I'd rather be more capable of doing something that I'm probably not going to need to use than underprepared. So if I can train for it, I will. That's what I like. What's that? I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener on a battlefield, or something like that.
A warrior in a garden rather than a gardener in a war.
I really like that just as a general philosophy.
Yeah,
I'd much rather have those physical abilities than not.
Yeah. And be useful. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about just being physically capable, and like I was always being like the roster of life. You know, always being selected in the roster of life. Like no matter what it is, you know, if you're in a lineup of 100 people, you know, okay, yeah, you know that you're going to be in the top 10. You know, you're going to get selected for whatever physical, you know, task is.
You don't know what could be round the corner.
Yeah.
You don't know what life's going to throw at you.
No, I mean, like, not to say that either of us are like, you know, doomsday, like, oh, it's going to be a
no, but what if you get into
like,
I don't know, like even if you haven't ran for the bus in a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
And you have to, like, I don't know, you have to sprint or
yeah.
you get into a physical altercation. You want to be able to do those things, not just, like you might be capable of doing it, but you want to be able to do it with without any negative consequences.
Yeah.
I know so many people that sort of like have, I don't know, played, like jumped into a five-a-side football game or something like that. They played the game, they did all right, they came away unscathed, but for the next 5 days, they were in absolute bits. I'd rather be like physically prepared enough to do it and to not suffer the consequences afterwards. Or like somebody going for a 5K run with their mates and they haven't ran for a while. You know, okay, they did it, they survived it, but then the next day, like they've got a bit of a sore knee or a bit of a sore ankle. That's like, you could call those overuse injuries, but I refer to them as underuse injuries. It wasn't the exercise's fault, it was the fact that you weren't prepared to do the fucking exercise.
Yeah.
Don't blame the exercise. Yeah. It's like, it was the fact that you weren't prepared in the first place. It's your preparation that's the problem.
Exactly.
So I think we've covered quite a good few supersets there.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there are any off the top of my head that I want to mention before we sign off.
Conditioning. Let's let one thing that we probably don't talk a lot about is conditioning. And for me, one superset that I like doing when it comes to like a conditioning element is some sort of erg. So like either a bike, row, ski, and then supersetting that from an energy standpoint with some sort of either plank or carry, because you get still having to focus on, you know, that isometric hold, either carrying something like a sandbag. You're also getting a bit of compression, which means that you're having to breathe a little bit harder, or you're in that plank position, you're having to try and regulate your breathing and bring your heart rate back down under control while staying in that isometric position. So like those two things from a conditioning point of view.
It's almost like active rest, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that active rest, active recovery is always sort of like thrown around.
I think in two different contexts, though, because you've got like active recovery between sessions throughout a week or something, and then you've got active recovery within a session. I think like active recovery within a session is pretty, like useful.
You're
going to have to recover anyway, doing something active.
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah, fair.
Depends on what like outcome you're looking for, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Within the session itself.
Yeah.
If you're doing a mixed modality sort of session where you're using the ergs and you're changing, like you're going from like different activities or switching between different activities, then you probably want a combination of something that's going to be like a little bit more demanding with something that's going to be less taxing to allow you to sustain a certain duration of work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So no, that's a nice one. Yeah, that's a nice one.
I don't think it's just manipulating sort of like, you know, time and the intensity, especially when you're trying to recover, because after an intense bout of effort, being able to drop that heart rate, recover, that's massively important. If you can do that while holding some sort of compromised position, brilliant.
Yeah, I really, I don't think people understand what we mean when we say conditioning. I think it's misinterpreted, or at least it isn't. I don't think people really think about it enough. If we like use the word conditioning outside of the context of like, health and fitness, like if something's in good condition, it's fit for use, it's fit for purpose. So like, what are you trying to condition yourself for? Like, so when you're choosing a conditioning modality, when you're putting together a session, you want to try and think about like the outcome that you want from that session, and that will determine like the exercises that you use, the intensities, the volumes and durations of work that you're using. Like what do you want to be conditioned to?
Yeah.
It's like you could say that any type of conditioning, any type of training is effectively conditioning, because you're conditioning yourself for something.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing heavy resistance training, you're conditioning yourself to be better at heavy resistance training. You're like a powerlifter, a big fat heavyweight powerlifter is very well conditioned to lifting heavy weights. His conditioning's pretty good for what he wants to do. But he might not be very well conditioned to do a high rocks or run a marathon. So conditioning's a very sort of like general term. So when you're putting together a conditioning workout, what do you want to be conditioned for? And then that should determine the parameters that you kind of work within. So if you're trying to get better at longer duration, sustained work, then you kind of you want to keep the intensity pretty low so that you can sustain a longer duration of work. And that might mean initially, like let's say you're, and this is a journey that I kind of went through. I was somebody that I had a bit more of an extensive background in strength training, like training for strength, speed, power, higher output forms of training. But I wasn't that well conditioned to doing like longer duration, lower intensity, sustained work. So when I first started like dabbling in that a little bit more, I found it really difficult to not, one, go too fast, and two, like move using the least amount of effort, trying to like move efficiently. And so that you end up like building up a little bit more like lactate than you really want, and it kind of like you kind of like even if I was on a bike and I was just like pedaling at a reasonably like slow and steady pace, I'd get like a really like intense quad pump because my muscles were really good at sort of like occluding blood and producing a lot of force. And so that kind of like held me back initially. And so using something like combinations of exercises that don't interfere with each other, so that you don't create too much like local muscular fatigue initially, so that you do get that aerobic response, that cardiovascular response that you're looking for. It's quite a good idea if you're not well conditioned to it initially. But I'll often program for people that are that way inclined, if they've got like an extensive strength training background, but they're trying to improve their endurance, a circuit of exercises such as the bike, something like a tall plank, that's going to give them a little bit of a break from the bike, so their legs aren't occluding too much and they're not accumulating like too much of a pump. Essentially, they're not being held back by that local muscular fatigue. And then they might go from that into something like skipping and then back on the bike, tall plank, skipping, bike, and they'll do that for 40 minutes instead of just staying on the bike for 40 minutes. And I think that's a nice way to get that aerobic stimulus without accumulating too much like local muscular fatigue initially. Then when you get better at producing longer durations of work without creating too much tension and that sort of thing, then you can just like stick to that one modality. And then that might transition into something to being able to like run for a longer period of time without needing breaks and stuff like that. So
meshing it together.
So
like that's the thing. Like I for me, like I've never been very like good at doing things for a long time. I get bored. So like I know if I need to improve my
but that's a form of conditioning, right? So that's mental conditioning. You need to you need to condition your psychological approach to longer duration sustained work. One of the reasons that I force myself to sit on a fucking assault bike for 45 minutes to an hour at least once per week is so that I can maintain that mental ability to endure it. I don't really get that much, I don't think, anymore out of the physical adaptations that come with it. I'm sure that I still do. I'm going to benefit from like the aerobic adaptations that come from doing that. But I just don't want to get out of the groove of being able, like just mentally able to force myself to sit on an assault bike and endure it for an hour.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put myself in that seat every fucking week because I want to maintain that ability.
Yeah. That's fair.
And it's something that and it's only because it's a skill that I developed when I was training for, I trained for like my first half marathon a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'd never really done before. And that was a skill that I kind of learned and picked up.
Yeah.
Like learning to like run for an hour without headphones.
This is quite a skill, isn't it?
It's like, it does require like, because you do, during those periods where it gets uncomfortable, you want to stop.
Yeah.
And you've got to talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And
you get better at it. Like when I did the same, like when I was training for this half marathon last year, like, it was, right, okay, go out, run around Wimbledon Common without any headphones. You get used to just talking to yourself, and then you go, fuck, I've done an hour and a half already, bloody hell, you know, you get used to it. But like when I'm in the gym, I get distracted. I'm like, I want to do a bit of this, I want to do a bit of that. So I end up having to like make it stimulating, you know, and also time efficient as well. You know, like I haven't got fucking time to sit on a rower for an hour. I've got 20 minutes, so let's, you know, do some intervals. Yeah.
Well, in that case, like you're training a slightly different energy system.
Yeah.
You know, like I think if you don't have time to allocate towards doing those longer duration bouts of like lower intensity cardio, then you kind of you have to get your aerobic work in some way. So you have to train at a higher intensity to kind of get similar benefits.
Yeah.
So if you can't allocate, you know, like a good hour to doing like, you know, sustained work, then you've got to ramp up the intensity. And you know, it's just as good. But they are kind of like, because that's always been an argument, like what's better, doing high intensity interval training or what they typically call LISS, which is like low intensity steady state cardio. Yeah. You can't, like, you're comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
You're training two different physical qualities there.
Yeah.
You can't say that one is better than the other. I think do both if you can.
Yeah.
Like train both because they've both got merit and they're both kind of important. So train both. That's a fucking thing in the fitness industry. There's always like this like either or. Yeah. Why not? Like in most cases it should be both. Yeah. Like they're both important. You can do both. Like it might fit into your like program better maybe at certain points throughout within a period of time. There might be like a better time, or you know what I'm talking about, like a better time or place to do one over the other. In certain circumstances, but nonetheless, like there's value to doing most things. Like you can do both. Yeah. It doesn't have to be either or.
Yeah. And there's a big I think there's been a big sort of like push to like do lots of zone 2. Zone 2 is like really fashionable at the moment, or it has been. But then I think at the moment there's a bit of a counter coming back. Like actually, if you want to if you want to build a big aerobic base, like that zone 2 work is important, and if you can do it. But actually, you do get some adaptation from doing that slightly higher intensity work.
You get a fuckload of adaptation from that.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's not black and white. It's very grey.
Yeah.
Energy system, I think.
It's like I think that the whole like spend most of your time in zone 2 comes from in like high level endurance sports. Because they're doing so much aerobic work across the week. Like a marathon runner might be running, I don't know, like 60 to 100 kilometers a week. They're going to be spending, just for the sake of load management, they're going to be spending the majority of that time in zone 2. Yeah. At like lower heart rate zones. Yeah. So that they're able to accumulate that volume of work. If you're not accumulating that volume of work, that rule doesn't apply to you.
Exactly, yeah.
So you should be spending most of your time, or a lot of your time, at higher intensities, because you don't have the same amount of time as an elite endurance athlete to warrant spending most of your time in those lower heart rate zones. Yeah. Like, yes, spend a bit of time there to become a little bit more efficient, and there are benefits to it. But I don't think that's where you should be spending most of your time if you don't have that time to allocate towards it.
Yeah.
Like if you've only got a couple of blocks a week where you're dedicating like 20 to 30 minutes to doing any type of, you know, aerobic work, like fucking up the intensity, please.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, it's the same with like, it just depends on the, like, you've got to dose your training from a practical standpoint based upon the amount of time that you've got. Like if you don't have that much time to train, you kind of like, you need to up the intensity on everything.
Yeah. Yeah, get your bang for your buck, squeeze every bit of juice out of every session.
Yeah, I mean, you can be a bit more conservative if you've got more hours in the week to like allocate towards training. You kind of, and you have to be a bit more conservative because you can't go balls to the wall, you know, all the time. You know, if you're training 7 days a week, like not all 7 of those sessions are going to be, you know, at 100% of your like capacity or output, because it can't be. You're going to fucking run into a fucking wall. You've got to, you know, spread that volume of workout a bit more conservatively across the week to just manage the amount of stress that you're placing on your body.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that much time, you've got to fucking condense it in and work hard. And be efficient with your time, which is coming back to the original topic, where you can use use supersets to be a bit more efficient, squeeze a little bit more juice out of your workouts. Yeah, we came full circle eventually.
We did. We got there.
A few tangents, but
mate, we love a fucking tangent.
we do love a tangent.
Tangents are fun.
I think that's where we get most of the. We get a lot of value out of it, so I'm hoping that other people do.
I think so. Yeah, I think we chat a lot of shit, but I think there's some diamonds in there.
Some nuggets.
There's some nuggets of good wisdom. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Good chatting again.
Good chat. Lovely stuff.